Hello and welcome to Heroic Stats and Any Heroics podcast, the only GBHL team where we pick our leader based on their ratio of forehead to facial hair. Tonight I'm joined by Elliot Claude and Ardacon Masters Invitational winner, Mr. Jake Rawson. Say hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So, what hobby has everyone been up to this weekend or this week just gone? Elliot, what have you done?
Not been doing too much. I'm just sort of doing the preliminary stages to converting Thoren and Dwalin onto goat in preparation for a tournament in a few months. So yeah, just been doing a little bit of soaring.
Lovely. Didn't get any games in?
When?
What about you, Jake? Any hobby or any gaming this weekend?
I have just bought an Eastling army for you, good sir, to paint for me in exchange for the big Smaug that I've got.
I thought I was doing the new Angmar stuff.
I changed my mind because the Hill Trolls and Wells all look really cool and I want to do that myself. So I thought, I know, what don't I want to paint? And the answer was 50 pikemen. So
yeah, fair. We'll hash out a deal. Comment below if you want a commission painted army by last year's intern.
Only Easterlings. Anyone who has Easterlings can get them painted by John.
And if you do want to get some new models or sell some of your old models, you can, of course, go to Seven City Collectibles. They buy your old shit, sell you nice new stuff. You can trade all your Warhammer for Lorcana, etc., etc. You know the drill by now. Click through on our affiliate link below. But let's not hang around too much with that. Let's get straight into the weekend's two biggest tournaments. It was, of course, firstly, the Ardacon World Doubles Championship. This was a GBHL 90 held at Ardacon in Manchester. There were 44 pairs playing in 6 rounds. However, there was one tournament that happened alongside this one. Jake, do you want to tell us what that one was?
Was it the doubles dash on the Friday? That was the one, right?
It also wasn't Chaos and Arda.
Oh.
The Thursday, Friday was the International Invitational Masters Tournament at Ardacon, which I attended and had a fantastic time. It was a lot of fun. I was preliminarily quite disappointed that I wouldn't be getting to do the doubles because last year I had an amazing time with Jasmine Tetley. But unfortunately, if you get invited to the Masters, you kind of have to attend what's looked upon quite frownedly.
Yeah, so how do players kind of get an invite to the Masters Invitational?
So I don't know in great detail, but the gist of what I believe is each nation has some form of a qualifying event. So Wales, for example, I believe was into the West. England has the Last Chance Invitational. Ireland has Michael Badford's event, and all of these different nations have one of them. And winning that event earns you a ticket to the Masters. And you don't have to be from that country to win that event either, which is quite nice. So if you theoretically wanted to win all 20 tickets, you could go to all 20 nations and win all the events. I don't think anyone's ever done that, but you know.
So it's essentially a invitation of all kind of theoretically some of the best players from all over the world. And let's have a quick look before, as we alluded to, Jake, who won it. Before going over your list, in third place we had a Defenders of Helm's Deep list, and in second place we had a Witch King Suladan combo. These were all 650 points. We might come back to Jake's list a little bit later, but first let's have a look-see at the 3 lists that podiumed the doubles. In third place we had Ash and Kyle. Kyle's a soon-to-be joining member of Any Heroics, so we're very happy to see him in the podium. Obviously, somebody podiums a tournament, we have to snap them up. That's just what we do. We're a super serious team, all about the competing. We are also sponsored this week by Tawny, not Tabletop Admiral, because the intern was too lazy to transcribe the lists over. So the first half of Ash and Kyle's list was Halls of Thranduil, led by Thran Daddy himself with heavy armor, extra sword, and Circlet of Kings. 6 Mirkwood Elf with shield, 2 Mirkwood Elf with glaive, 3 Palace Guard with spear and shield, 1 Mirkwood Elf with glaive and banner, and 1 Sentinel. And the other side of the doubles list was the Iron Hills, led by Dane on Piggy. He had 2 Iron Hills Goat Riders, 7 Iron Hills Warrior with spear, and 6 Iron Hills Warriors. What do we think of this kind of as a doubles list?
Quite nice, isn't it?
I mean, both halves work very well individually. They work really nicely together. They synergize nicely together. I mean, we obviously had the privilege of playing it, John.
We were Ash and Carl's only loss in the tournament in round 1. We travelled up together, took them out round 1 so that they were able to submarine their way to the top.
And then it went fantastic for the 2 of you for the rest of the event, right?
Yes.
Sure.
We did pretty well, to be fair. Elliot and I played Rise of the Third and we finished 10th. So 4 and 2, happy with that.
Not bad at all. Yeah, no, this is a very good list. I mean, like Elliot says, it works quite well individually, which I think is important in a lot of the doubles events, which people don't often see or are very familiar with. I'm not super familiar with a lot of them. So as the event was going on, I was going around and catching up with all the participants and saying, what was the scenario? How does it play? What are the differences? And you do have to have lists that can function individually and as a pair. And this one obviously does that very well.
Yeah, it was almost the complete opposite to us because we chose Rise of the Third in because we were focusing on getting both parts of our army together, because often you deploy apart in double scenarios. But the flip side of it is having an army like this, which works well independently, and you don't necessarily need to rush to get to each other, which is quite nice.
Yeah. Right, let's have a look at our second place list, ran by Shaka and Detra. I don't believe these are people's real names, but these are the nicknames that they've registered on Tourney with. They brought in one side the Master of Lake Town as the leader, with 4 Lake Town Guard. That looks like 3 Lake Town Guard with bow and 8 with spear. Then Alfred leads 5 Lake Town Guard with bow, 7 Lake Town Guard with spear, and Braga bringing 5 Lake Town Guard with bow, 7 with spear. The other side of this list is Thoren's company. Got Dwalin on a pony, Ori, Nori, Gloin, and Philly all on ponies.
It's a good list.
It's a very interesting choice of dwarf heroes, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you want to run us through what each one does, Jake? Do you remember off the top of your head?
I can try. Thoren's company, Dwalin, is just really good at fighting. I always get all the Dwalin profiles mixed up. I think in this one he's fight 6, can do multiple attacks or something like that.
I think he's 3 attacks, but I think he's burly and has the master weapon rule.
Yeah, he does.
Which is slightly redundant with burly, but
is Ori the slingshot one?
Correct. And he also regenerates might if any of them kill. I think it's I want to say a monster or multi-win model.
Monster or hero within 3 inches or something like that, right? Yeah. And I like his little rule of, is it if he hits on a 6, it does a wound or something like that?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Or doesn't take in the ways or something.
No, it's just an auto wound. So if he literally rolled a 6 against Sauron, it's just a wound.
It's pretty nice, isn't it? Get a few cheeky shots in there. Nori and Gloin, very familiar with. Great heroes in Thoren's company, specifically Thoren's company. Not necessarily as good in champions, but it doesn't matter really much here. Nori with his strike and burly is fantastic. Gloin, multiple attacks, fight 6. Another really good killy hero to support Dwalin. And then Philly is just about the bang average of what you can get in Thoren's company. I think nothing special, nothing terrible, but he fills a little hole. And I like these, put them all on ponies as well, so they can keep up with the men. Not super essential, but nice little thing to include, and it probably looks really cool on the table.
In doubles as well, it's useful for that, being able to join your forces together quickly.
Yeah, it is. And obviously they all have march, so you've got a lot of movement potential in there.
That's true, yeah. What, ponies 8 inches, so then we go up to 13 with the march or something like that. So
zoom in. Right. Do you know what one? Any guesses?
I do know what it is because I played one of the guys in singles twice, so I do know exactly what the list is, I think.
I know who won. I don't know what won because I never bothered to ask them what they took. I just assumed it was going to be something cool and slightly bullshit.
So there was a lot of chatter about kind of legendary legions being very good in doubles, knowing who your leader is. We didn't have a legendary legion in third place. We didn't have a legendary legion in second place. And we do not have a legendary legion in first place. First place was Hestan and Le Voyager. I'm sure there's a Belgish pronunciation of that. Louis Van Heck can comment below and tell me how to pronounce it. Or Lewis Van Heck, sorry. The first half of their list is the Witch King of Angmar on Fellbeast, Crown and Morgul, 3 Might, 14 Will, 3 Fate. He's leading 6 Orcs with Pick and Spear. That looks like 3 Orcs with Shield and Spear, 7 Orcs with just a Shield, 1 Orc with a Banner and Spear, 2 Deadmar Spectres and a Wild Warg. And then the second half of the list is led by my beautiful fluffy baby, Gullivar. And Gullivar is leading 3 Orcs with Shield, 2 Orcs with Spear and a Wild Warg. And then there's an Orc captain in there on Warg, leading 4 Warriors with Shield and 4 with Spear and 1 Deadmar Spectre. I'm surprised this list won. I know...
Oh, yeah. Why is that?
So I know one of the players is very, very good. I think that's Hestan. I'm not familiar with Le Voyager, but they must be pretty good.
So that's who I played in singles. I think Jonathan was his name, and he was actually very good as well, I would say.
Yeah.
But I was having a chat with him because I actually found it interesting that they stuck the Witch King on Fellbeast. Apparently, that's quite popular at the moment across the pond in mainland Europe. Fellbeasts.
Okay.
I suppose the idea being super high mobility, him and Gullivar can meet up pretty quickly and start wreaking havoc.
Yeah, it feels like Gullivar and the Witch King can do loads of work, but then the dregs of the list just feel really weak. Each side feels very fragile. Comparing it to, say, Carl and Ash's list, where they've got 2 maybe not as killy heroes as Gullivar, but still very killy heroes, but a lot more durability, and then the quality of their battle lines is a lot higher. It just seems like a stronger list. But I've played Angmar a lot. These guys are clearly very good players, so there's definitely a lot of tricks you can do.
Yeah, it does have all the pieces that you need to make a good Angmar list. It's got your Witch King, it's got your Gullivar, it's got your March and your Captain, good number of Spectres and Wargs for objective play. So even though it's not a very sturdy list or a substantial list, even the model count is reasonably low, it has all the key pieces, and it's 650. That was it, the 650 or
it was 700.
700.
Yeah, 350 aside for this one.
Yeah, like it probably does. Well, I mean, clearly it does everything it needed to do. I suppose with your scenarios for doubles as well, having the separate deployment and things, it means that you're never really going to be facing, well, not very often facing the full force of an army with it. So any half army, 350 points come against a Gullivar or a Witch King Fellbeast, that alone might just get torn apart while the Orcs just sort of hang about. So
exactly that. I mean, like in theory, they could both go and target half an army, get on either flank and sort of hurl down the lines at each other, can't they, in combat? So it's quite, I quite like it.
Yeah.
The start of the Angmar resurgence, I'm sure we're going to see with the new releases.
I hope they finally make it good.
Hey, my only 100 podium was with Angmar, so they've got to be good, right? If they got me,
you mean your first one, John? There is more to come.
Maybe one day. Right, singles, the Ardacon SBG World Championship. This was a GBHL 146 players. Unsurprisingly, also held at Ardacon in Manchester. 6+1 rounds. What does that mean, Jake?
So all players at the event play 6 rounds in standard Swifts, with a slight difference in that when you join the singles, you can submit yourself as part of a team, and that team is between 4 to 9 players, and you will not be drawn against any member of your team for the first 6 rounds. And then at the end of those 6 rounds, it takes the existing rankings from the end of that and the top 2 players go into a final championship round, and these 2 players can be from the same team, and they play out head-to-head for positions 1 and 2. And at that point, all the other 144 players are locked in at their positions from 3 down to 146, and the top 2 are just playing for first and second.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really interesting. It's not been super popular in previous years because the way it's sort of been run is the other players have just been waiting around while the championship round is going on. But they've done it differently this year and put on a separate event called Chaos in Arda, which has been around for a long time. But they've now held that during the final championship round, so the other players all have something to do. And I think that made it a lot more appreciated and a lot more popular. So.
And of course, the team that won the team aspect of this tournament was No, sorry, it was the.
We wish.
Yeah, we were first after round 1, and then slowly, like bin juice, dripped down to the bottom. The winning team was, of course, the GBHL All Stars, and I think, am I right in saying the top 4 places were all GBHL All Stars?
Yeah, top 4 places, 6th place, and then a few more further down. One of our members nearly got the wooden spoon. We were hoping to bookend the event, but unfortunately, he couldn't quite lose to Damien O'Byrne. So, what can you do?
How impactful do you think it was, the fact that players couldn't play members of their team, and how much do you think that impacted the final standings?
It's really interesting because there's obviously a huge benefit to it if you put together a really strong team, because the likelihood of being around the same sort of rankings is quite high. And therefore, one of the big concerns, especially for GBHL team events, is knocking out people on your team, and that now being removed as a possibility does make your team stronger. From an individual standpoint, it did create a little bit of a problem, because it then meant the 4 or 5 of us that were near the top tables, who were hoping to get into the championship round, had to really outperform the other members of our team if they wanted to get to that championship round, because just going for 6 wins or 5.5 or whatever wasn't going to be enough, because there was a lot of people going to be up there because they weren't knocking out other top tier players. So from a team standpoint, it was fantastic. From an individual standpoint, it created a bit more of a surge to want to be like even better than you normally would perform. But luckily that balances out with the way the scoring system works this time with the oaths. So I think that was quite good. Do you want to explain how the oaths work? Because I barely understand it.
Yeah, so each game there was one extra tournament point up for grabs, so that bumped your win from 5 points up to 6 points, and also the first tiebreaker was stopping your opponent getting their oath. And to generate what oath you were going for, there were 4 to pick from. Players vetoed one of their opponent's oaths, and then you had to try and get yours. The 4 options were control an objective, behind enemy lines with either a hero or warriors, killing your opponent's most expensive model that wasn't their leader, and finally, your leader killing the opponent's leader in combat. So kind of 4 different aspects of the game: objective control, kind of leader fighting, mobility, and then kind of just eliminating that key threat that opponents had. Shall we look at some lists?
Yeah, let's do it.
3rd place was, unfortunately, a Golems gamer, but we'll let him off because he's a lovely chap. It was Ben Haslam. He brought his tried and tested Host of the Dragon Emperor, which was, of course, led by the Emperor himself, leading 18 Black Dragons with pike and shield. Then he had an Eastling captain with 9 warriors and 1 cataphat with a drum. And then a second Eastling captain, both of those on foot, by the way, with 2 warriors with bow, 5 warriors with pike and shield, and 2 warriors with shield. It's a Dragon Emperor list, but it's probably is a bit unique, this one, with the double captain, no kind of extra named characters, no Dragon Knight. What are the thoughts on this build?
I think it's a fantastic list. So I reviewed this on the Golems Gamer podcast, and I predicted that this list was probably going to win the event. And I still stand by that statement, because the only game that he lost was round 1 of contest against a Mummock, where he lost priority and it killed the Emperor in a single turn. And so there's literally nothing you can do at that point. But every other game he won, I think he got most, if not all, of his oaths and a lot of denials as well. They performed incredibly well at the weekend. And not just because Ben's a great player at it, but the list is really, really solid. So yeah, it's phenomenal. Double captain is great. You keep your march and your drum, and they're just like, they're really killy when you have 2 pikes behind them, because you're getting a lot, like 6 dice, I think, to win fights, because you've got the banner and the hero rerolls. The captains can pierce and strike 2-hand, and yet you're still getting 3 dice at no neg 1. Like, they output a lot of damage, and people underrate that. And then the troops just do a battle line really, really well. I was actually quite nervous that I was going to end up playing this in the championship round, because he was so close with Dave Farmer on tiebreakers that it was a very real concern, and this would have walked over Arnor, I think. So yeah, very good list.
Yeah. Dragon Emperor.
Dragon Emperor.
It never really goes away.
No, still
maybe
great.
in the new edition. Right. We alluded to it earlier. This is not just the second place list. This is the list that won the Ardacon Invitational Masters. It is Mr. Jake Rawson's Arnor 2 Electric Boogaloo. Jake, do you want to run us through this list?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing I took last year. I'm lazy. I don't like to write multiple lists. So, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So we've got Arthur Dewey leading a warband of 12 warriors. One of them has a weapon swap to a club, and then a 13th warrior has its spear and shield swap to a banner. Malbeth with 5 warriors, and then a 6th warrior with a club change as well, and then 5 rangers with spear. And then 2 captains of Arnor, each with 5 warriors, but one has 5 rangers and one has 4 rangers and a hobbit archer because of points limitations. The only change from last year is I had flails instead of clubs. Last year, flails did a little bit, got maybe an extra kill over the course of the weekend. This year, the clubs did a little bit. I got a stun over the course of the weekend. They're not really game-changing changes. It's just because you have a few extra points left over and you want a bit of variation. I think I could happily take the weapon swaps out and the list would perform exactly the same and just play 2 points down. So maybe that's what I'll do next year. But yeah, it's really good.
What sort of things did you play against?
A lot of Mordor Sully. A lot. I think I had 2 games against Mordor Sullivan. 1 game against Survivors of Lake Town with Thoren, King of the Mountain Allied. 1 game against a very interesting list, which going into it I didn't rate at all, and it turned out to work quite well. So it was Neil McLaughlin, played in round 6, who had Aragorn, King Elisar, Theodred from Rohan with Haleth as well, and an Avenger Bolt Thrower. So it's only 30 troops, not a lot of shooting, but obviously has the Bolt Thrower in there as well. But the Haleth making Theodred fight 6 and Aragorn fight 7 and fight 5 troops is a really nice addition. He's got a lot of bodyguard in there from Fountain Court and Royal Guard. It's all high defense. And obviously Aragorn is, Aragorn, 6-inch banner, kills a lot of stuff. Does really, really well. The only limitation to it was the model count, because it meant I could just body it and kill it. But I think if you had 5 or 6 more troops, or maybe dropped the bolt thrower and could work in a slightly greater model count, all of a sudden it's a bit more of a problem. But it was really strong. It was just like top table, game 6, so it clearly performed really, really well. But yeah, it was a tough matchup. I got quite lucky winning all of the move-offs in that game, but the 5 games previously, I think I won 2, so I think I was due a little bit of luck with that. So yeah, it was a really nice list, and Neil's a great guy to play as well, so it was fun.
How did you get on with your oaths? Because I took Arnor as well, and most of my games went fairly well, but bar 1 game, I really struggled with getting my oaths.
Yeah, so it depends on the army you're playing, the board setup, and the scenario. I got 6 out of 6 oaths over the course of the weekend, but because they were similar to last year, and I went to Ardacon last year, I'd learned which ones work well for Arnor and which ones don't. Typically, you either want to always play the oath where you're going for the objective somewhere on the board, or you want to play for the opposing board edge. And obviously, they can't veto both of them. They're going to veto one. And so then it's largely a scenario-dependent thing. If it's like Hold Ground, which we played, you probably don't want to go for a board edge. You want to go for the center one. So they're naturally going to veto that. So then you say, right, cool, I'll just straight from the get-go of the game, I'll account for that and send a few models off. And I've very rarely picked any of the killing ones because killing isn't really Arnor's strength.
Yeah.
So,
well, I feel like that's kind of how the oaths are kind of sort of geared towards, aren't they? I think they're kind of designed that every army could probably do 2 quite, not easily, but efficiently. And so you're always going to have one that you pick, and I think most people just tend to float between the 2 all weekend, really, don't you?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, yeah.
We have just been joined by none other than James Starch himself, the definitely not Polish dynamo. James, how are you doing?
Not too bad. Feels bad to be a replacement of the farmer. I'd rather be here instead of him as a winner of this event, but it's okay. We've played almost the same list, so I can manage. I can definitely talk about AOL.
Well, that segues perfectly on to the winning list of the whole event. It was Mr. David Farmer and his AOL list. I know that's a happy day if I ever seen one. So Dave's list was Assault on Lothlorien. The general was Musga, leading a bat swarm, 1 orc with banner and shield, 10 orcs with spear. Druzag in the second warband, leading a second bat swarm, 2 spiders with the giant variety rather than Mirkwood, 3 goblin prowlers, 8 goblins with bow, and then an orc captain on Warg led 1 Warg rider with throwing spears, 10 more orcs with spear, and then a goblin shaman with 3 prowlers and 8 goblins with bow. What do we think of this build?
I think it's awful. I think it's shit. Not bitter at all.
It's not tournament winning, is it?
No, it's very good. It's probably one of the best ways to build the list. Maybe Jakub would agree, and he pilots it incredibly well. I'll let Jakub talk about this for a bit. He knows a lot more than I do.
Although I don't know as much as Dave. But I agree this is a very good list. Mine had the same heroes. The only difference was I had another spider and another warg rider and 4 more models. So on the grand scale of things, it's not massive differences, and it has just enough bats and spiders to do the things they need to, just where they need to, and not sit idle. I felt sometimes like my third spider was a bit idling, but to be fair, I didn't feel like I needed more goblins either. So that's the thing. The prowlers are great. Goblin bows, great, and well, all around is a very versatile list. I suppose Dave took the same approach which I did by choosing Assault on Lothlorien, that it can really plays very well in a lot of scenarios, and there are so many matchups that are just very easy with this list, and most matchups are playable. We've had the most difficult scenario for AOL as the first one, which I think Dave got to play a mirror matchup in that one. Certainly, it could have been much worse. Like, with AOL, you can definitely just auto lose Contest of Champions, but if you go through this, it's much better than it's in game 1 rather than, say, game 5. Then it's kind of smooth sailing from there, unless you play Arnor. But when you play Arnor, you just need a bit of luck on your side, and a good scenario, and that was definitely the one.
How does AOL do Jakub into the Ardacon oaths?
They probably did better than mine. So AOL definitely has the right tools to do at least 3 out of 4 oaths. Musger is not amazing at killing enemy leaders or wounding them, but you can kill a hero. Although a lot of times good opponents will prevent you from that by just hiding them, because they know very well what AOL can do with them. So I've learned the hard way that it might not be the best one. And then behind enemy lines and the whole objective thing are also, they're very good. I did 3, I think, and all 3 were, no, 2 of them were control the objective, 1 of them was killing the hero, but I could have done more probably. I didn't have that much experience with the oaths last year as Jake did, so maybe that mattered.
Yeah, I think experience with the oaths is definitely something I was lacking. I think I only got one in the whole event, and definitely looking back in hindsight, I think there were some tactical errors on which ones I picked in certain games, and especially kind of like what Jake said, just knowing from the outset, being set on. Because I think my opponents vetoed the objective one almost every single time, and
yeah, makes sense.
Going in, I was like, oh yeah, oaths will be easy. I'll just get the objective one. Didn't really think too hard about completing other ones. But it's a huge
behind enemy line. So some say Jake is very good at doing this, and some matchups, but
yeah, I think I played that twice over the weekend, and yet for some reason, 3 of my opponents decided to veto the leader on leader one because they thought Arvadu was going to go and kill their leader. And I was like, yeah, cool, veto that. That's fine. I don't care. I'll go and take one of these nice 2 objective ones. I don't have a problem with that. So, yeah, I think I got quite lucky with that. But yeah,
so you were getting that,
fantastic.
And I was getting Ents, Guahir, and Galadriel in contest.
Yeah. Well, I played Boromir of the White Tower in contest with Arvadu. And Jakub was a witness to that game. He loves to come and cheer on my opponents whenever he finishes his game early. Jakub.
I cheer on Boromir.
Yeah.
Or on Kand. Last 2 times, I cheered on Kand because that's what I played. I cheered on Boromir because that's what because that's my favorite character. I totally not because they're playing you.
Shout out to Akeem Vieira, who I played against. He was using Kand. He played both me and Elliot. Absolutely love the guy. He got my most sporting vote. It was a really, really tough, sweaty game. And we were both being very kind of like making sure all the details mattered, but it was played really like jovially and friendly. It was one of my favorite games I've ever played. It was fantastic.
I think I was really nice in this tournament. Like the amount of nice things I said today, for example, I don't know what happened to me. Like I told him that he might be a better AOL player than myself before the last game. And he said it's the like nicest thing I've ever said to him. Then we get to play AOL versus AOL, and it's left as undecided.
We need a rematch. That's what we need.
Even more AOL in the world. Maybe I should paint my AOL.
A charity live stream, Jakub versus Farmer of AOL, and see who comes out on top.
Do you think that's more or less exciting than the Arnor mirror?
Oh, much more exciting.
Definitely more. A lot more tricks there.
Our game was interesting. Arnor, the Arnor is just, you don't know what's what, and you're just looking at people rolling dice and trying to kill each other's models and failing.
Yeah.
Right, shall we look at the GBHL 100 podium stats?
Let's do it.
Predictions for what's going to be in the top 5?
No idea. I'll hold my hands up now and admit that I haven't watched one of these episodes in many moons, so I'm quite out of touch, I'm afraid.
Probably Murder and Serpent Halls.
We don't hold being a Spotify listener against you, Jake. Well, Jakub's correct. First place is, of course, still Mordor with 8 GBHL 100 podiums. The rest of the top 5 is a 4-way tie between Serpent Horde, Host of the Dragon Emperor, Rise of Theoden, and Isengard. In 6th and 7th place, we've got a joint with Angmar and Dark Denizens and Mirkwood on 3 podiums. Then on 2 podiums, we've got Arnor, AOL, Lothlorien, Goblin Town, Fellowship, Misty Mountains, Halls of Thranduil, Survivors of Lake Town, and then a smattering of armies, all on 1 podium each. Continues to be dominated by Evil. Any insights, any top player insights, Jake or Jakub, based on this graph?
I think... Sorry.
Elliot, any filthy casual insights?
Yeah, that's right. I'll give you the casual insight. That's a different episode.
Okay, Jake can't say any insights. What it looks like. So I'm just counting days. I hope for it to be over. Black Numenorians, go away, please.
Yeah. Hopefully, we get a nice little points adjustment in this new edition where they go up to 10 or 11 as they should be.
Yeah, and then you'll just have to compete with a 12-point Arnor calf.
12 points.
Could you imagine?
Hey, we're influencers now. I
wouldn't be that surprised with like 13-point Arnor calf for at least first half a year. Sales must go on.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. I think it'll be 14. I'm being conservative with my hope.
I love the fact that 14 is conservative.
Yeah.
Like they're extremely broken. It's conservative, yeah.
Yeah, in about 3 or 4 months, the Arnor is going to shoot up this podium table, I would imagine. I think it'll be comfortable prediction to say they'll have 5 podiums by the end of the year.
Yeah. Do you think that'll be kind of at higher points, or do you think they have a sweet spot?
No, definitely lower points. The perfect level for them is 650. They can also work at 700 in certain situations of 550 as well. The most I've ever played them is at 800, and I wouldn't spoon. So, yeah, probably not a high point army. But, we'll see what else comes out with them, because if there's anything else in Arnor that hasn't been yet announced that is to come out with it, and that could make them maybe compete at high points, whether it's another hero or a legendary legion or something like that. So that could change the whole the fit for Arnor.
I could see like the optimal points levels maybe each going up by say 50 points when you suddenly get the 3 might Arvidui mounted hero, Arvidui's bodyguard mate, and then the cav. So a few extra points to sprinkle in. So maybe kind of suddenly the 600 point mark's appealing and the 700 point mark's a bit more appealing.
I just hope they go up in cost. Like this list is, let's say, balanced for very, considering its very big limitations. No cavalry and just 1 hero of heroic strike, who's also a linchpin leader and everything, and he's got 2 wounds, defense 6. So when they suddenly don't have those weaknesses, yes, if they remain as they are and just receive those new profiles, I agree, they will shoot up. Or to be fair, they'll shoot up anyway, just because people will be able to afford them.
What about Angmar? Do you think we'll see Angmar climbing up the podiums?
Probably, although maybe not necessarily with a lot of the new stuff in. Maybe it will draw people back into Angmar, and then they'll include 1 or 2 of the new things like the cool new spirit hero, but the core of a successful Angmar list might remain largely the same. Although I'm very excited to see this bird legendary legion. That's going to be the first thing I'm picking up and painting. Quality or not, I think that's a very exciting thing for me.
I'm very much not excited for what looks to be on the model preview a new bigger base for him.
If it means it's better, fine. I mean,
keep him on a 40 mil.
Yeah, 40 mil is great, but it looks a bit stupid. I've won a GBHL 100 with Birder this year, so I can live with that as a Birder enjoyer.
Yeah, a slight little increase would be fine. Maybe the 50 mil, sure.
Yeah.
But when you compare him with a Shade, it doesn't often matter so much if he's getting massively outnumbered and trapped and stuff. So it's one of the few monster models that's got a good combo.
That's the thing with the Shade. Like I hope the whole new Angmar won't just combo nicely with the Shade, because that also has a potential to suddenly get broken. Because Angmar is already good, so I just want the new things to allow you to play it in a different way. Maybe without some of the weaknesses. Let's say maybe this new hero for Warriors of Carndoom can give them good courage or fearless or something, and then they're not looking at their opponent when they cause terror. So but not just I don't know, not just everything that works with the shade, and we suddenly end up in the situation like at the start of the edition where Hunter Orcs roamed free with the shade, and everyone was unhappy.
Mm. My big worry when I saw the release of these models, at least initially, especially the Khandoon Warriors, was that I was concerned about the lack of creativity perhaps with them. I thought we were just going to see another basic fight 3, strength 4 evil model with perhaps defense 5. But then when they announced this nice little buff hero that came with it as well, I thought, okay, that's interesting. That keeps it fresh. That brings something new to it. Obviously, we don't know the specifics of what it is yet, but it means that we're not just relying on repeated profiles in new factions. So that's exciting and promising.
Mm.
You can definitely see there being a Khandoon Legendary Legion as well.
Mm.
Yeah, I wonder if it'll work quite similar to sort of Dunland, sort of like sat within Isengard.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah, I think that'd be interesting. I was always really surprised that they didn't just announce Dunland as a faction and make them green allies with Isengard, because there's plenty of stuff in there. But, I suppose it's nice because you can now throw in, like, the occasional 1 or 2 Dunland troops into an Isengard list without needing a Dunland hero. So
you can have Gorulf leading Uruk-hai crossbows and pikes.
Yeah, which is very,
just
very
as
powerful.
Tolkien intended.
Yeah, come on, guys.
What do you want to see on this list, Elliot? Climb up the podium rankings.
I mean, Riders of Théoden's already high enough, and that's without me going through and tearing through, winning some hundreds. To be quite honest, it's actually quite like spread. I must admit, John, I've not actually looked at the graph in a while. It's actually a lot more spread than I thought it was. Like even sort of going down to sort of the lower end, you've got like Khazad-dûm, the Shire, those kinds of things creeping in on there, which is quite nice.
Mm. There's a few things I'm really surprised to see, like Grand Army of the South, Khazad-dûm, you said. Like the fact that they're up there is rather cool. I mean, Numenor as a faction is not great, but I assume that's up there for an alliance, which makes sense.
Yeah, my Rivendell Numenor, 3rd place, Gates of Gondolin.
Yeah, but no,
Just
things like
1 point ahead of you
is like Grand Army and Khazad-dûm. So that's nice to see different things. Maybe not winning, but podiuming at least. So.
Yeah. You and Elliot make a really good point. There's almost 30 different factions that have podiumed 100 this year.
Yeah, Grand Army is definitely one I'd like to play at some point, and that's an interesting one. I have a Mumak that's looking at me all grey, been looking at me for 2 years now, and it's finally maybe time for him to shine.
I'm surprised Minas Tirith's not on here.
Is it not?
Yeah.
Like even as an ally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's one of those lists that everybody seems to have played at some point.
It's like very high. I remember it being very high at 90 podiums. I guess it's
it's had I think 5 or 6 90 podiums, but hasn't podiumed 100.
Okay.
And why do you think that is?
I've never personally rated it. I don't like it as a faction. I think there are the things that it does well. There are just other factions that do a lot better, and the things that it does terribly too kind of break the deal for me. But lately I have been looking into it a lot more with some of the cool new rules that TOs are having for their events. And I think they make it a bit more viable, so I might crack out mine before the end of the year and give it a go, maybe for, I don't know, maybe Imps, I think would be a good one. So that's one of my few events for the rest of the year. So, yeah, maybe we'll see a couple.
I'm looking forward for a Legion that hasn't been officially announced, but I'd be extremely surprised if it's not there with Glorfindel and King Arnor. It's just like Rivendell, Minas Tirith thing. It's something I'd like to play myself. Might be a bit boring, but
yeah, no,
but I want to put
you're
it
a
up
fluff
there.
player, really, Jakub.
Yes, like I put Kant in this list, and it's the only one. If you did this last year, then at the end of last year, we've probably had some random factions featuring after my 6-way Yellow Alliance thing, podiuming GBHL 100.
Yeah, that did really hurt my graph. Right, let's round out the episode with everybody's favourite section, except for mine. I like the stats. Here's, of course, the viewer comments. 4 Farthings Gaming says, a couple themes that have been pitched here are Men of the South, we're going up to Canada from the US. The Dwarf and Goblin War biggest battles, Minas Tirith versus Haradrim and Mahud, and Last Alliance versus Barad-dûr, or Arnor versus Angmar, or Holidays. I do not know the context for this comment because I did not listen to last week's pod. They all sound like cool things within the Lord of the Rings universe. I'm going to guess that it is themes for a themed army doubles tournament, maybe.
Not a dinner party.
Not a dinner party. Maybe a dinner party. If you had to go to one of those themes as a dinner party, Jakub, which one would you pick?
Interesting one. I think holidays are a strong contender. It's during holidays, yeah, or if I get extra holidays because of this dinner party. That's a good one. I'm not sure if Men of the South would be very popular now.
No, not in today's political climate. Elliot, which one would you pick for your dinner party theme?
Probably Last Alliance Barad-dûr. I think it'd be quite nice just to have Sauron sat at the end, like pass me the salt. Yeah, bud.
Yeah. He accidentally cut his finger off with a butter knife. Jake, your call?
Well, I'm assuming that this dinner party is going to be fancy dress because every dinner party worth going to is. So for me, that would have to be the Dwarf and Goblin War because then I can just get out of bed, roll down, and fit either theme nicely. So yeah, convenient. The Goblins, obviously. Have you seen me in the morning? You've seen me this weekend at Ardacon when I just roll down the stairs to the elevator,
wandering around the streets of Manchester with no shoes on.
Yes, I've seen you in socks outside. Which
Dart and Soul 5112 says, for the Spider Queen Moria Alliance, Mordor is yellow with both as well, so you can run both the Queen and Shelob with Spider Shamans. A lot of fun to be had there. Been tinkering with it for a while.
Actually, I actually have to say before the Yellow Alliance FAQ, which we had to take Hero of Valor, I've won 2 GBHL 100s with this exact combination. So with Shadow Lord, Druzag, Shelob, and Spider Queen. And yes, it was lots of fun. And to be fair, it might be viable as an 800, maybe 800 points list. Ideally good V-Evil. It would be a lot of fun, but it would be a very big glass cannon. Just because the number with Druzag, with Durbirds necessary now, the number of models would be low.
Yeah.
What about good V-Evil makes this combo particularly better?
Just less Nazgul that can Sapwil your Druzag, transfix your spiders, and overall when Spider Queen is fight 8, she doesn't really care what she's eating. She's just eating everyone. Like literally in this tournament, she ate LSRs, Danes, and so on in one turn. I have no problem at all.
Leon Smith, friend of the pod who was on last week, said he was quite surprised we didn't get a Smaug at our event. I think that's just because the players were kind and didn't want to put you through the TO trouble.
I have
you
been
sound like you're speaking from experience, John.
I am. After getting abused in the GBHL not Ardacon, but the GBHL Masters rules discussions.
The rage quitting
put
from
you
it.
off ever wanting to TO another event again?
Yeah, I'm definitely not a TO. I'm definitely just a hobbyist. But speaking of Smaug, we will have to discuss, Jake, how you want your Eastlings painted.
I'll have to have a think. Maybe rainbow coloured. Who knows?
Yeah, bear in mind, the more complicated the rainbow, the less Eastlings you get for your Smaug. SS104 says, another great episode. Can you explain how Shelob beats the Spider Queen 1v1? Does she?
No, she doesn't.
Probably not.
No.
No. Do you think that was a Dave hot take?
How she? I mean, if she's very lucky, that's what she does.
I mean, maybe Kirith and Shelob might put up a fight-ish. but it's still
Who has the highest strength of the two of them?
Shelob, so she can actually kill a spider. If Shelob charges Spider Queen, she can kill her in one turn. But this is not going to happen, really.
No, not if you're playing it correctly. Like, yes, if Shelob gets a charge in the Spider Queen and the Spider Queen strike doesn't go well, and then she flubs her roll, so it's very, situational. But it could happen, sure. You need luck. That's how.
Spider Queen's fight 6 anyway, right? So even if she flubs a strike, you're still probably doing better than Shelob.
Yeah.
Enigmatus23 says, I took the Smaug that came 14th, and I am the person that Smaug James. Was very fun. Sorry, James. More Smaug chat. This must have been at a different event to Leon's. Maybe there's a Smaug meta incoming.
Which is why you want one, John.
Yeah. I've got to get. If you've not heard, he's going down to 500 points in the new edition.
I heard they're swapping his and Birder's base size.
That would have to be a real heavy kind of 40mm base for it not to wobble over. What is it? Is it tungsten?
The model just really heavy on his tail but stood upright.
Oh, Jake, wait until you see what I'm going to do when I get that Smaug off you. I've got plans.
Are you going to just bury it in a mountain of gold coins? So it's just like a horde dragon?
It's going to be wild. Okay. If I can make it work, I want it to. It's going to be really cool.
Okay. Mid-flight dragon incoming. That's the pose I'm hoping for, John.
Well, it's going to need a lot of pinning and a lot of counterweight. Cool. Yohei. Oh, God. Yohei. Is that right? As a fellow Serathungal enjoyer, do you take Uruks with bows? I take them every time. I find they attract shots, and having fight 4, strength 4 means they're surprisingly hardy when charged. I would love to know your thoughts. I think, does Dave take bows in his Serathungal list?
I think he takes 2 or 3.
Not on Oryx, unlike
Honesty bows.
He takes them like Orcs.
Can you take trackers into Serathungal?
Don't think so.
I don't know. No, you can't. And the problem with those Uruks is they don't have Uruk bows. They have Uruk bows.
Yeah,
and they're really awful. So, I don't know if them attracting shots is a particularly good characteristic. Like, I'm not sure if your better troops are attracting more shots, then it's not that great.
Yeah.
Yes, my lord 2350 says, what do you guys think of putting shields on spear throwing warg riders? And what do you think about trackers on wargs over orc warriors? Bow on warg? Thoughts?
I probably would never bother putting a shield on a throwing spear warg for me. Just because most things wounded on 5s is probably going to die anyway.
I will always put shields on warg riders.
That's why I'm a filthy casual.
Including spear ones. And actually Dave also doesn't, and I don't really understand this, because there's a lot of with cavalry being D5 versus D4, it helped me a lot of times against most shooting, but strength 2. But this is like not even the most important thing. The most important thing is against heroes, because if you have a D4 cavalry and charge it into a 2 attacks hero, he's most likely going to kill it. Well, with the warg, it's still like you can work and stay and so on. But if he's D5, then often even like 3 attack heroes may struggle with it. And this is just one point, and really we can live with that. And especially when I see people who are taking shields on their infantry and not taking shields on their warg riders, that surprises me.
Yeah, I think the shield always comes before the throwing spear for me, and then the throwing spear after. Not that I take them very.
In AOL, throwing spears are great, but typically they're just a meme. But it's just the kind of meme that sometimes works, and it works really well.
Yeah,
usually doesn't, but it's fun.
Yeah. In terms of the trackers or orcs with bows, if you're ever taking an orc with bow instead of a tracker, then you need to ask yourself why you like this.
Asking about trackers and wargs, like, don't take trackers and wargs or orcs with bows and wargs. Just take trackers and foot, and that's the way to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Trackers on foot, amazing. Trackers on wargs, probably a waste of points. Just take a warg rider instead.
Our final question of the episode is a nice, succinct one with a very clear and obvious answer. Do you guys have any ideas what armies do best at different points levels, such as 500, 700, and 800? So, no explanation. Jake, what's the best army at 500 points?
Lake Town with Thoren's Company Ally.
Elliot, what's the best army at 700 points?
John, why would you give me 700? My favourite army would be Riders of Théoden. The best 700, I'd probably do, I don't know, probably like a Witch King Sully kind of soup.
And Jakub, what's the best army at 800 points?
AOL.
Ooh.
Because at the Nations Cup, our Assault on Lothlorien won the most games, which clearly shows it's the superior one.
Interesting.
Oh, this is obviously there are so many answers to it.
Yeah, of course.
And now, John,
we all know it.
John, give us one for each points level.
Yeah, come on, John, tell us why we're all wrong.
500 Goblin Town, 700 Goblin Town, 800 160 model Just Captains Goblin Town.
And
we might not win contested champions, but that's why I don't podium 100. Right. With that brings us to the end of our episode. We are, of course, affiliated with Seven City Collectibles, our favourite shop in Nottingham. Sell your armies, buy new armies, buy Lorcana. It's a great game. Thank you very, very much to Jake and Jakub for filling in at the last minute when our competitive legitimacy was too busy celebrating his win to want to come on the pod. What does Stephen say at the end? Be terrible people. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Golem's Gamers videos. And of course, chitter chitter.
Chitter chitter.
Cheers, boys.
Chitter chitter.
I've got to think of something funny to say for the intro.